Welcome to FNF Team Analysis. This is Team Analysis for the FNF Victory Road Draft League Season 2. In this series, I will be analyzing the teams that participated in the Draft League, either via Discord voice call or via DM, where I'll be saying what the coach told me via DM. This time, however, we do have a voice call interview, which is very fun, and I'm very pleased to announce that we have the team Waterfront Woods, led by Sir Roland, who is joining me on the call today, and he also has a very important message because he is eating... What are you eating?
I'm eating a burger with sweet potato fries.
A burger with sweet potato fries. You heard it here, folks. Morgana's already probably tuned in. We summoned him with the burger. Alright. So, we are analyzing Waterfront Woods. And first, before we get into anything, I would like to ask the question, why Waterfront Woods and why this logo?
So, Waterfront Woods, so the school I go to is called Maine Maritime Academy, and the campus is split up into two parts. Well, actually three, but I've never been to the third part. So the first part is the main campus. That's up at the top of a rather steep hill. That's where most of the buildings are, and that's where a lot of the classrooms and all the athletic facilities are. The second part, however, is called the waterfront, hence why I have Maine in the background and why the waterfront is blue. It's part of the school that's right on Penobscot Bay. There's a little beach area, and that's where the dock is for the training ship. And that's where we do a lot of the engineering classes. That's where I did my welding class, and that's where I've done most of my engineering-related courses so far. That's why I picked Waterfront, was because it pertained to me, it pertained to my school. And the woods part is because there's actually a lot of trees in Maine, especially on the drive going from the airport I fly into usually down to my school. Takes me through a lot of a woody area, a lot of trees, and that's where I came up with that name. The logo, so I mentioned how I came up with Waterfront Woods and the main part. So the logo Pokemon is Torterra. I actually realized a little bit too late that was a Mega Torterra concept.
Yeah, I was like, damn, this Torterra is decked out.
But I still thought it looked pretty cool, so I put it in there. And then the 4-point star. The 4-point star is basically a reference to Luxray, which was my MVP of last season, and pretty much just my Pokemon. Luxray, I mean, just through the draft leagues, has gone from being one of my favorite Pokemon, easily my second or third favorite Gen 4 Pokemon, to arguably being close to Lucario with being my favorite Pokemon just ever. And that's how I came up with that logo. It's relatively simple. I made it in about 30 minutes on Adobe Illustrator, but same thing happened with last season's logo with the Bayside Divers logo. I just kind of made it pretty quickly, but I always take inspiration from where I'm at the time when I make the logo.
That's really cool, though. Honestly, I wasn't expecting such a nugget of Sir Roland lore, but that was really cool to hear, actually. And I know you're going back to Maine soon, so it's a nice little revisiting to where you came up with your logo. And yeah, I remember you told me, you're like, oh, can you guess what the star in the background was? And I was like, is it Sheik? And you're like, no, it's Luxray. And I was like, oh, the tail. But yeah, I really like this logo, especially knowing that background. And I also think it's appropriate with Torterra being, a literal tree. So
being tree.
Yes, being tree. So yeah, that was a cool little background, and I'm curious to see if you join season 3 what your logo will be there, because you'll probably be in Maine. But anyways, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So that was a cool that was a cool background for the logo, and so we're going to be looking at Waterfront Woods today. And first we'll go into your initial team. So this was before you made any exchanges, which you made a few. What were you thinking about, what was your drafting concept when you were doing this?
So as pretty much everybody in the league will know, my first pick was Gardevoir, solely because I think at least 2 or 3 people asked if I still wanted Gardevoir, and I said yes. And someone specifically, I cannot remember who it was, but I know someone specifically asked if I wanted to draft Mega Gardevoir. And I said, I'm not going for Mega Gardevoir, I have a different one in mind, since I had Mega Gardevoir at the end of Season 1. I traded Mega Tyranitar for Mega Gardevoir because I just kind of felt it was a bit more fitting for my team, and it ended up being a better fit for my team. But I figured I'd go with regular Gardevoir, and since it was such a high-demand Pokemon, I drafted it first.
Yeah, there was a lot of people who were like, I want Gardevoir, and you're like, nope, mine.
Because, yeah, most people wouldn't expect a Tier 4 to get drafted first, but, I mean, at the same time, I drafted not to with my first pick last season. So if that doesn't say anything about my drafting process, I don't know what does.
Hey, and Corsola was picked first this season, so anything goes.
But yeah, so that was my first pick, and then so just going down the rest of the list. So Mega Absol was an interesting pick for me because when I looked at it, I was looking at it and Mega Gallade. And between the two, I figured Mega Gallade was going to be a much better Pokemon to have on my team. So naturally, I went with Mega Absol as my pick. Solely because it got Magic Bounce. And I figured if I was going to go up against Scrub again this season, I would need a Pokemon that was good anti-stall. And Mega Absol just seemed to be that Pokemon. It got Magic Bounce. It gets it hits very hard. It's pretty fast. And I mean, just combine that with like a Stab Sucker Punch or a Stab Knockoff. I figured it'd be a good Pokemon to have. I, of course, took into account the fact that it had terrible defenses, but when you're going for hyper offense, defense is kind of an afterthought. That was my thought process on Absol, was it's got a great move pool, Magic Bounce, Dark type, and the Dark type was also, I thought about it later in the season, going up against a potential Prankster Pokemon. I was like, well, it has Prankster, I don't get hit by it. Win-win. And then so Salamence. Salamence was basically mashing the I Need a Dragon Pokemon button. And Salamence just happened to be a Tier 1 Dragon type. That wasn't Garchomp. So I was like, I'll go with it. That wasn't quite a decision I was ready to make. And then Staraptor. Staraptor was a rock on my team last season. I mean, with good old Ace of Staraptor with Reckless, Brave Bird, U-turn, the good stuff. I gave it Z-Any because I figured maybe Z-Tailwind or a Supersonic Sky Strike. Supersonic Sky Strike always hits hard, but Z-Tailwind actually is a pretty good move. It boosts critical hit ratios, which with Staraptor, a critical hit Brave Bird is very strong. And then we have Cobalion. Cobalion was again a backup to Lucario, or it was originally a backup to Lucario, but eventually I just grew on me, and I figured I'd draft Cobalion over Lucario anyways, just because it seems like a lot more fun to use, and because I can go either physical or especially offensive, and it has a very good physical defense, and I really like that. Incineroar was a bit of a mashing option. I was like, I need another Dark type. Incineroar. That was just a Tier 3 Dark type, basically. Then I already went over Gardevoir. And so, then Luxray. Need I say more about Luxray?
It's Sparky.
It's old Sparky boy. Logo Pokemon. Yeah. I was drafting Luxray one way or another. Lapras. I remember I had Lapras last season, and I remember, just because it's one of my favorite Pokemon, it's my favorite water type, I just wanted it again. It has an insanely high HP stat. It's pretty bulky with Assault Vest, and for whatever reason, it has the most absurd move pool in the game.
Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt, 3-1 hit KO moves, Dragon Dance and Dragon Pulse. For whatever reason.
Yeah, it's got a Starmie like move pool in that it has so many options.
And it can be either a physical or special attacker because it has the exact same physical and offense and special attack stats. So it's in the same boat as Cobalion, where it can be pretty bulky, but it could also be either special or physical offensive.
Yeah.
And then Frostlass, Destiny Bond cheese. Next. That was my entire strategy with Frostlass, was either catch a dragon type with Ice Beam or Destiny Bond cheese. That was it, and it worked a few times, and I was happy about that. Eventually people caught on, and eventually it stopped working. But I still went for it anyways, because it was fun. And then Victini. As I alluded to in one of my matches when I gave it the nickname, what the hell is this? That was my thoughts when I looked at Victini's move pool, because it's wow.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it just has a Mew-like move pool. Lots of coverage moves, and lots of moves, period. I mean, it's a legendary Pokemon, so it's got 600 base stats, so I could do basically whatever I wanted with it. I remember in my last match with Startoad, I tried running a Final Gambit set that almost paid off, but it didn't. And then Gallade. I love the Ralts line, and Gallade was a fighting type and a psychic type, and it's basically the physical counterpart to Gardevoir, and that's just what I wanted. I wanted a physical psychic type and a special psychic type. Not to mention Gardevoir being psychic fairy, Gallade being psychic fighting. It's a different kind of usage, and it's actually a different move pool too, because I believe that Gallade actually gets knocked off and Gardevoir doesn't.
Yeah.
But also Gallade gets Earthquake, and I needed another Earthquake user, along with the last Pokemon in this list, Torterra. Torterra, Grass, Ground, Logo Pokemon, my favorite starter of all time. Yeah, Torterra, I wasn't expecting it to be as useful as it was this season, but it just kind of turned up, and I'm very happy about it.
When I was looking at the differentials, I was like, wait, really?
Who would have thought?
You did it justice. And it's funny because I remember at one point you were like, anybody want a tree?
I was like, does anybody want either Torterra or, well, and we'll get into it later, Torterra or Flygon? Because I was like, I don't need either of these. And then I had a split-second decision, man. I was like, wait, no, I need Torterra because it's my only grass type. Anybody want a Dragon-type Pokemon? Because I don't really use Dragon types.
Well, I'm really glad you kept Torterra. One, because it's your logo Pokemon, but two, you ended up using it pretty nicely, so it worked out. But we'll get into that.
Very nice.
Overall, you did seem to have a lot of overlap with your last team from Season 1. Do you think that in a future season you would continue this trend of having some of your favorites and then trying a little new Pokemon, or do you think you're going to overhaul and completely do something different, or stay more the same?
Well, I'm definitely going to be keeping Luxray. Even if Luxray just does not perform well ever again, I will always be keeping Luxray.
Unspoken rule. Luxray is yours.
That's just kind of like my brand now, is Luxray.
Yeah.
But I mean, with Lapras was kind of overlapped from last season because I just needed a water type, and if I know it well enough, I'll just keep it.
Right.
But I brought in some new guns like Victini. I believe Incineroar I was going to try to use it. Never really did. Mega Absol was definitely a big jump for me, just because it wasn't like a high tier Mega Pokemon. It was like a tier 2 Mega, very frail and with a very niche usage. And then Pokemon like Frostlass, Gardevoir, Gallade, where I knew exactly what I wanted to do with them. I just kind of put them on the team because I know what to do with them. I've used them in actual Pokemon games before, and I know what's good, what's fun with them. But I know in the future, and as I did later on in the season, I would be branching out into some newer Pokemon, and I know that I'll eventually settle on probably some newer adventures, maybe new strategies like a Trick Room team, or like, God forbid, a Stall team. Don't tell Morgana.
He says as he eats his burger. Well, I do think that's a good strategy to approach it, because sometimes when you go too off-kilter, you could kind of be in unfamiliar waters and you're like, what do I do? So yeah, but unspoken rule. But I guess now spoken, that Luxray is yours, because I just said it. So I guess it went from unspoken to spoken. But anyways, we'll go into the battle record. And so overall, you got a 3-7 record and rank number 14. So overall, how do you feel like you did this season?
I mean, I did 3 times better than I did last season, statistically speaking. I had 1 win last season and like a minus 20 something differential, or actually it might have been more than 20, I'm sure. But this season I had 3 wins, and I wasn't last. So I'd call that a major improvement in my book. And even some of the losses I had, in my opinion, were a lot closer than they look on paper.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think overall, you had a lot closer matches this season.
Oh, by far. Especially at the beginning of the season. Instead of opening up with a 6-0, I opened up with a 3-0 against Lion Hugs, and Lion Hugs had a good team. And, of course, that battle against Quasi with my attempt at Trick Room almost worked. Then Wobbuffet happened, but...
We'll go into that.
Yeah. But I know off the top of my head, the King Fuse match in the middle of my 3 wins, that one match against King Fuse, I'm definitely going to go into that later, because that was a heart-wrencher.
Yeah, well, I have thoughts on that one too. I have thoughts on all of them, but before we go into the individual matches, do you have, was there a team that you were really excited to face? Was there a team that you were really scared to face?
As far as excited to face, I was excited to face Noob again, believe it or not. Just because I know that was my 1 win last season, and it would either have been Noob or Quest's team, just because those were easily my 2 best matches from last season. And I was looking forward to playing them again, seeing what new changes they brought about, and what adaptations I could bring to try to counter any of their changes. As far as being scared to face, I mean, pretty much all of these teams are scary. There's not one team that you can look at and say, oh, this is a pushover. Yeah. Everyone had great teams. Everyone could bring any team that could just sweep you at a moment's notice. Kind of like Noob did with me when I magic bounced that world win. But as far as like the scariest team I think I faced, either Benji or Quasi. Just because it was the beginning of the season and I still was trying to get used to some of the newer Pokemon on my team and trying to make a few adjustments. And just because there was some scary good Pokemon that I knew when I was planning that if I let them set up, it would be game over. And, well, they set up, but...
It was a very hyper-offensive league. Overall. Alright, well, we're going to go into the individual battles now, and we're going to start with your battle versus Florida Flesh Ribbons, which is Lion Hug's team. And, yeah, so what were your thoughts on that battle and how that battle went?
So, I do remember Metagross being one of my biggest concerns. Metagross and Blacephalon I know are my biggest concerns. Just because, I mean, I still have a few Steven flashbacks from Emerald. But Metagross is still a very good Pokemon, and I was trying to think of a good counter for it, which I figured was Victini, and possibly Luxray if I could get a setup for it. But I mean, Metagross just kind of tore through my team pretty well, and that in Blacephalon, because I didn't have quite a good counter at all for Blacephalon because I didn't bring Frostlass. Because at the time, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to use it for. Because I mean, if you run like a Scarf Blacephalon, which I don't think Lion Hugs ran, but still, like a good Blacephalon set could absolutely destroy my team. And I mean, 3 Pokemon did 100% of the work. And of course, Archeops, I now know that Head Smash is very strong.
Yeah.
Very strong.
I think the one Pokemon, not the one, but like the main Pokemon that gave you trouble in this matchup was actually Archeops. When I rewatched this, there were so many moments that like things just fell into place for Archeops. Like Lapras, I think, bringing it down to 23% right there so that the berry activated it, and then it was able to go back up and regain its power. Then it took out Lapras. Then Staraptor came in, close combat, almost killed it but not quite, and then it was able to take out Staraptor. So it took out like 2 really vital Pokemon for you, and it kept hanging on. It was really resilient. Other times, Victini V-Create was really useful for you, but there were so many times where like it almost killed something, but then it didn't. So I think probably like if you had Rocks or Spikes up, you would have been able to get those like remaining points of HP on the other team. But you actually had a good control of the match. I'd say like starting from the 10% mark to like the 70% mark, you had a really good control. And then at the end, that's when Lion Hugs kind of regained that control.
Yeah, this match was definitely interesting, and I think that was my big issue throughout the league, is that I'm just not very good with non-status, with like non-attacking moves. I just always end up either doing them wrong, or I put them on a Pokemon that's a bit too slow for them to matter. Something like Cobalion or Torterra. Cobalion's not slow by any means, but at the same time, like, there's other stuff that I could use on Cobalion for coverage moves, and I did do that. Yeah, I did do that. Not that it worked all the time, but it worked out for me most of the time with my Pokemon that could set up hazards.
Yeah.
But that I think the biggest reason why Archeops just tore through how it did was that I just hadn't really planned for it to be a huge killer or anything, because I figured, Defeatist, as long as I bring it down below 50%, it'll be okay. And then Papa Berry happened, and the rest is history.
Yeah. But still, it was a really good showing for your first match, and I think it was a really enjoyable match to watch, for sure.
It was definitely enjoyable for me as a player. I did not walk away from that match saying, wow, I could have done better. I walked away from that match saying, wow, this was a great first battle. I feel very confident in myself going into this league.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that it was kind of like foreshadowing the rest of the matches, like how you would have close matches no matter what, whether you were winning or losing. So I think that was a good first match. We can move now into the second match, which is actually where you face Pitiful Punching Bags. So the tale of the Trick Room Wobbuffet.
Ooh, this was... Oh, God. Yeah. So, just as like a note to myself, if I ever do a Trick Room team again, I just gotta make sure that my Pokemon are actually slower than Wobbuffet. Because Wobbuffet, I mean, Quasi mentioned it during the battle, that Wobbuffet in Trick Room is just a killer, because it's pretty slow, and it has plenty of things to counter, Trick Room itself. You can Encore the Trick Room, and then you just spend 4 turns setting up and then canceling out.
Yeah.
So Gardevoir was rendered basically useless for that entire match, because it was my Trick Room Pokemon. And then once Gardevoir got taken down, that's when Como-O just annihilated my team. Because Gardevoir was there as my Como-O counter. I believe I had Play Rough on Mega Absol as well. But, I mean, once Como-O gets off, I believe it's Conquerors Soul Blaze.
Yeah.
And then it has all its stats boosted. There's not a whole lot I could have done with Mega Absol to take it down. But yeah, I do know that I had specific Pokemon that I was targeting. It was a Como-O, Wobbuffet, and Mimikyu that I was targeting. I think I was targeting Kartana with Victini. I don't actually think I had it full attack. I think I had it full speed for that very reason. And I never actually think I faced Kartana either. It was mostly the Como-O, Mimikyu, and Wobbuffet show for my team. But I took care of two of the big problems that I was trying to get rid of, which were Mimikyu and Wobbuffet. I know that I had Cobalion for Mimikyu because Iron Head. Iron Head just works.
The X-Scissor moment was also really sad because you almost got Wobbuffet down, and then it encored you, and then it countered you right before it died. So yeah, this was the first match we see Como-O and Wobbuffet, and just one of the full extents of Quasi's team, the Pitiful Punching Bags, and how scary it could be.
Going into this match, I'm glad I faced him week 2, because God knows how scared I would have been had I faced him like week 8 or something when I was actually in playoff contention still.
Yeah, I mean, having faced him week 10, yeah. So, yeah, really intense to go against this team. And after, actually, we could go into your exchanges. So your first exchange being Salamence being traded away for Volcanion. So explain your thought process behind that one.
So I knew I was never going to use Salamence because, as with most dragon types, for whatever reason, it's 4 times weak to ice. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, Salamence is by far my favorite, as specific as it sounds, it's my favorite Gen 3 dragon type Pokemon. Suck it for Quasar. Well, second favorite, I forgot about Flygon. Which is actually
Altaria crying in a corner.
Well, I haven't really used Altaria in my Sapphire run through. But Volcanion was, I mean, it's basically an oxymoron. That's kind of why I presume it has an O on its back, the ring. I always took that as oxymoron. It's the fire-water type, and it has water absorb. So, it's very good utility, very, very bulky, for very good reason. Since it's a legendary Pokemon, it's got great stats. And it also has an insanely high special attack, and it gets insanely good coverage moves. It can hit most everything very hard with Earth Power, Sludge Bomb, Steam Eruption, Flamethrower. That's a lot of coverage on a very strong Pokemon, and it showed up pretty well in this league, I think.
Yeah.
And that's why I traded Salamence away for it, because it's a tier 1 that I would actually use instead of it just being a really good Pokemon that I was basically wasting on my team.
Yeah, I think its versatility was really good for you, and especially since you didn't use Salamence, I think this was a good exchange.
And then we get into another Pokemon that I actually really sadly never used, because I really like Flygon. It's tied for my favorite dragon type period with Giratina. I mean, it's very aesthetically pleasing, very good move pool actually, and it's got decent stats. I think it actually rivals Staraptor in most of its stats. I know it's got a similar attack and I think equal speed, which is why I drafted it, because it was a ground type. There's another electric resistance or immunity that I could have on my team, because I wasn't sure at the time how I was going to use Torterra. And I also knew I wasn't going to use Incineroar since I had Victini. But Incineroar kind of got lots of very good use later on down the line.
Yeah.
Same with Salamence, actually. Both of the Pokemon that I ended up dropping and trading away, dropping for other Pokemon, ended up getting very, very good usage, which honestly it really doesn't pay me to say this. I'm glad I dropped them so other people could use them to their fullest potential. Because it makes me happy to see that those Pokemon were actually getting used instead of being wasted. Because they're both very good Pokemon.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
But yeah, I had Flygon mainly just so I could have another Dragon type, but also so I could have a Ground type.
Well, we'll see Flygon again in an exchange window, but in a different way.
Oh yeah.
But anyways,
not for the right reason. And then we have Z transactions. So I kind of wasted a transaction. I'm going to be completely honest. I could have just gone. I could have kept the Z Crystal on Victini and then traded, and then switched the Z Crystal from Staraptor to Cobalion. But I figured maybe because I believe I gave Z all to Victini and then Z attacked to Cobalion.
yes.
Mostly because I was going to try to get either a Z Steel move or like a Z Zen Headbutt. Because that 90% accuracy just kills me, and it kind of did kill me later on. But I gave Cobalion a Z Crystal because it was a Pokemon that had the typing that I needed to counter a lot of other Pokemon with a Z move, specifically with that Z Steel type. Just because it hits fairy types really hard, and it'll hit a rock type very hard as well. And then, of course, giving Z all to Victini. I think at the time I was hoping I could pull off a Z Celebrate or something of the sort. But yeah, it was mostly used just so I could have what I like to call the Z Create.
Z Create.
220 base power. Totally not broken.
Yeah, V Create is quite the move. I'll just say that. And no drawbacks, because it's Z boosted.
Exactly. So it just kind of kills.
Yeah, pretty intense. So with those exchanges in your arsenal, we move on to your match with the Star Conquerors.
Yeah. This match went very well at the start. I thought I was doing pretty well. I think it was pretty back and forth for the beginning of it, and then I lost Staraptor. And then I lost.
Yeah.
I think I switched Staraptor into an Ice Punch. And that did me in, because Staraptor was my 4 times killer for Buzzwole. Because that was the total. I was expecting Buzzwole just on off. I don't remember if it was an off chance or I was hard expecting Buzzwole, and I had Staraptor for that very reason. And it was just mismanagement of my Pokemon that did me in. Because once Buzzwole got that Ice Punch off and Staraptor went down, I had nothing to counter it. I didn't really have a Psychic type. The closest thing I could have had was like maybe a Zen Headbutt on Cobalion, but even then, nothing could have worked on that. But I do remember the Iron Head check, the beginning of that match on that poor Shuckle.
Yeah, we see Buzzwole with the 6 here, but Shuckle really pulled its weight too with power split gyro balls. And then your Iron Heads were like, nah, we're putting an end to this.
Like, sorry. Because it just flinched every single time.
Yeah. You did do pretty well in the beginning, though, but yeah, losing Staraptor, I remember commentating, too, and I was like, Staraptor's gone, what's he gonna do?
I think Morgana kind of left a comment that was like, wait, did he just lose? I was like, I think I did. But
lessons could be learned, like,
lessons were definitely learned from this. Don't switch Staraptor into an Ice Punch. It's a safe switch in. If I have to lose a Pokemon, I will, as long as I can safely switch Staraptor in. Because I think, well, actually, I don't quite know what I was doing because I don't see an Ice type here for Dragonite. I think I put Ice Beam on Mega Absol. That's what happened. Oh, I forgot.
Lapras, yeah.
I completely forgot about Lapras for whatever reason. Never mind.
But still, despite the Buzzwole, like, you still did really well in the beginning.
Yeah, that was a big lesson to learn, was just management.
So moving forward with that management lesson learned, we face Night Wishy-Washy.
Yeah, speaking of management, oh my goodness. This was an intense freaking battle. I mean, I had Gardevoir that pulled my weight big time, because that was a Scarf Gardevoir. I pulled out the guns and I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this really weirdly. I put a Choice Scarf on Gardevoir just because I figured it would outspeed exactly what I needed to outspeed. And it did. It pulled its weight. I do believe that this was when the Froslass jank first started.
Yeah, you got the Destiny Bond on Scizor.
That was the big one, because if Scizor had not gone down, Gardevoir would have been in a lot of trouble. Even if I'd kept Volcanion for Scizor, or even Staraptor, still it would have been tough for Gardevoir to pull out what it did. But I just remember going through this match thinking, there's still a way for me to win this, and I just have to trust in one Pokemon. And that Pokemon for me was either going to be Mega Absol or Gardevoir. And it happened to be Gardevoir for me. I kept Mega Absol just in case I needed some kind of fodder. And it was used as fodder, but it was very important that I used it as I did, because the management issue just came perfectly full circle. Once Mega Absol went down, I switched the Gardevoir in and I put Trace on it because, it's Trace, so what could possibly happen this time? And I traced Intimidate and it worked.
Not only did you trace Intimidate, but you also traced Sheer Force, which boosted up your your Psychic by a really big margin.
I actually hadn't realized that. That was completely on accident. But I know that had to have helped against Nido and against, I think, Mega Altaria as well.
Yeah.
But I know that Diancie was a big issue for me because it's rock type. And I just usually have issues with rock types. Mostly because, Volcanion, believe it or not, is actually weak to rock, since that's what I kind of learned the hard way. A lot, actually. Is that Volcanion is weak to rock, since water doesn't resist rock for whatever reason. But, of course, fire is weak to rock. But yeah, the Gardevoir usage was pretty much what pulled me through this. I was scared about Mega Altaria because it's a strong fairy type, and strong fairy types are always really scary to deal with. But it's also a strong dragon type too, which tends to be a theme with dragon type Pokemon, actually. They're all very strong.
Yeah. This was definitely Gardevoir's Trace coming in clutch the match. Very interesting, very intense, down to the last second. Very good match.
I think it was actually down to the last 10 HP.
Yeah, something like that.
I switched in Gardevoir. I put in the numbers in the count, and I was like, wait, I just won.
It was legendary. This was such a great match. I really enjoyed this match. And it was your first win, a really good win.
It was. I was very excited because I was definitely not expecting my first win to be walk to the park sweep win. I was expecting it to be a grind, kind of like it was last season, where I had a lot of RNG against Noob Scrub, and then just some good, smart decisions where I didn't panic that just pulled me through the game. And this was a case of good, smart decisions and me not panicking, as I kind of did in other matches. That just pulled me through this game. And I just kept a level head. I think I was down at one point, 4 Pokemon to 2. And then one Gardevoir switch in later, and it was tied.
Yeah, I remember distinctly when that happened. You were like, well, that happened.
That just happened.
But yeah, really great match. And we move on to your match versus the Visionary Tricksters. So,
oh my god, this was a heart-wrenching loss for me because I had it. I had this win in the bag, and I can undoubtedly say that switching in Mega Absol and I believe instead of Star Raptor lost me the match.
It was all that fateful moment.
It was.
The sucker
that was
punch.
A panic moment. That was a panic moment where I was like, oh, maybe Mega Absol will do it. And yeah, it didn't. That was... Because it was such a smart... Because I was like, oh, Frostlass. I remember when King Fuse got off the Shell Smash with Cloyster. And everyone was like, oh no. And I was like, eh. And then I put the Thunderbolt on it. I was like, eh.
That was huge brain. The Choice Scarf Thunderbolt still outspeeding Cloyster after a Shell Smash. That was a really great strategy by you.
That was the fun part about this team is that for whatever reason, some Pokemon just have really weird movesets, like Frostlash getting Thunderbolt for whatever reason. And then I believe it also happened in a few other matches, but Mega Absol getting like Flamethrower and Ice Beam on a physically offensive Pokemon, it comes in clutch occasionally. But yeah, the Frostlass play, when that happened, I knew, okay, I've got swagger going into this match. I've got Tide coming in my favor. Let's see what happens. And Star Raptor did really well for me this match, better than it did most other matches. I hate to actually say that I can't remember what happened, but I can't quite remember how it went, but I know that I brought Volcanion specifically for Magnezone, as ironic as it seems. Like, oh, why would you bring a fire type or a water type for Steel Electric type? But that was so I could have an Earth Power on it, since it doesn't get levitating. I don't actually, it gets Magnet Pull. And I was like, oh, an Earth Power will steam right through it. I think it did, actually.
I think...
I
think you actually...
Gallade.
Gallade, yeah. Used Earthquake on Magnezone.
Yeah, I know I had Earthquake on Gallade, and I had Earth Power on Volcanion, both of which were good counters to Magnezone. And then Beedrill, of course. I was scared about Beedrill, because that, oh my goodness, it is like the third fastest Pokemon in the game, Mega Beedrill.
Yeah, it's blistering fast.
It's wicked fast, and it's extremely strong.
Yeah.
I've been messing around with Mega Beedrill just on ladder matches, and that Pokemon adaptability is an amazing ability for a bug-type Pokemon to have, because a stab U-turn with its attack stat is incredibly strong.
Yeah, that thing being last, I think you scarfed Staraptor, I believe.
I did.
And if you had enough HP at the end, you would have been able to clinch it. But because of the recoil...
Yeah, the Braper just... Oh, that was such a heart-wrenching loss. Because I was like, I had it! And then I didn't have it. But it was still very good on King. I still say King Fuse did extremely well clutching his win out.
Yeah.
He deserved that win. I'm not going to diss him at all. He deserved that win. It was very, very hard fought. Down to the wire.
Yeah, a really good match after a really good match. And more good matches to come.
Oh, for sure.
So we actually move on to the next one, which is your match versus I Like Corsola.
The Rise of Torterra.
This is the Rise of Torterra. Also, shout out to PowerPoint for correcting Z-Quig's like into the actual spelling instead of the meme spelling. But
Microsoft autocorrect.
Yeah, I'm always wrestling with it. So this is the Rise of Torterra.
I mean, I just kind of went into it. I was like, oh, Torterra seemed to have a good matchup against this team, because like it could hit Muckalola hard, it could hit Corsola hard, and since it gets Iron Head, it could actually hit Whimsicott hard too. But I mean, the fact that it had 3 KOs, it just kind of swept real well. It did very well for me. I believe Frostlass Jank again happened. I think actually it was... Oh, I remember. I think this was like a Gardevoir Trace against Gothitelle, if I remember correctly.
No, I think what happened was you used Trick on Gothitelle to give it a Flame Orb, and then you hexed it.
Oh, wait. This was the other Frostlass Jank I had. Because I remember Frostlass going into this, I was like, I'm going to put some weird jank on Frostlass. And I told you about this. I'm like, I'm going to do something weird. I'm going to give Frostlass a Flame Orb. I'm going to give it Trick, and then Hex. Because it's going to be the weirdest thing I'm ever going to do. It wasn't the weirdest thing I ever did. But it worked. For, whatever reason.
Yeah, I managed to take down Gothitelle, and I think with Gardevoir, you taunted Corsola and you forced it to attack, and then you Destiny Bonded it.
That would make sense, because I did that with Gardevoir a few times, or I gave it the taunt Destiny Bond combo. I know I did that against Morgana. That didn't work at all, but I know I did that in that match too. But yeah, this is the one match where Mega Absol actually lived towards the end of it. If you look back on it, of all the matches that I brought Mega Absol, it had 8 deaths. And it was in 9 matches. This is the one match where it made it to the end. Lives to tell the tale.
Congratulations, Mega Absol, you lived.
You did it.
Yeah, this was a great match for Torterra, and a really strong showing for you. And another win. So it seemed like mid-season was like where you collected a lot of wins.
Mid-season was a very interesting time for me because it was, by far, it was not a cakewalk in the slightest. The 3-0 victory, you'd think like, oh, it's like a sweep, but no, that was like, wow, I just did that. It was incredibly good planning that I put into this match. So like Torterra's got good matchups. If he brings the right Pokemon, Torterra could do very well. Torterra did very well.
And this is not the first time we'll see Torterra do well.
Well, this is the first time. It's not the last.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Oops. This is not the last time. Yeah. Correction. Clown moment. This is the first time we'll see Torterra do really well, but not the last.
Absolutely not the last time. And oh my goodness, it's definitely not even the most hype moment Torterra will have.
Oh yeah. Speaking of hype Torterra moments, well, before we get to that, we have exchanges.
We had an actual trade where I gave Flygon a loving home. Flygon went to Kingfuse, and Kingfuse picked up Rose Raid and then gave me Rose Raid. And I was very thankful for this, because I needed another special attacker, because just looking at my team, I was like, I have like 3 or 4 special attackers and 7 physical attackers. This is an issue. Let's fix this. How about Rose Raid? Because Rose Raid, incredibly strong and reasonably bulky.
Yeah, I think Rose Raid did well for you.
And it's also a poison type, which I didn't have until I picked up Rose Raid. It's grass poison, and poison types against fairy. Big plus.
It was funny because during this moment, I had actually asked Kingfuse if he wanted to trade, and I was like, "Hey, you don't have a dragon. Do you want Drampa?" And he was like, "Oh yeah," and I was like, "Yes, I'm gonna get this trade." And then he saw that you were trading Flygon, and he was like, "Actually, never mind." And I was like, "Ah, oh, damn." But I'm actually glad that this trade went through, because I know you really wanted Rose Raid, and I managed to trade away Drampa anyways. But yeah, I was like, no!
It worked out eventually.
But it did work out, yeah.
And Rose Raid also kind of opened the door for me drafting Roselia in the Orber Gate League. Because this was the reason I was like, oh, Roselia seems like a very good pick in in the NFE League. Let's see what happens here. Little did I know.
Yeah, Roselia is really good in general, like not even just in NFE, because Eviolite makes it really bulky. So
Eviolite is Roselia, Roserade also is, for whatever reason, incredibly bulky too. And that's how I was like, oh, Eviolite, Roselia, wow, strong.
yeah, it could definitely take a hit. I think it took a hit from Gengar, a Sludge Wave or something, but we'll see that later. But anyways, speaking of good matches, we have our next match, Ferocious Victini, and in this one, we have another cool Torterra moment.
The Torterra pop-off moment. That was just such... I was like, if he brings Empoleon, I'm gonna put just enough speed on Torterra to where I outspeed it. I had no idea it was gonna work, because I figured he was going to bring Azelf and he was going to bring Infernape. And when he brought neither of those Pokemon, that was a huge sigh of relief. Because those are the two Pokemon I was the most scared of. Even more so than Zygarde and Tapu. Because I was like, oh, Tapu Bulu. I have Staraptor. I kind of nicknamed Staraptor my Tapu Killer. Because, at least in ladder matches, every time I saw like a Tapu Koko or a Tapu... like a Tapu Fini or pretty much any Tapu, it was just Choice Scarf Staraptor. Brave Bird or Double Edge. Goodbye. So I wasn't scared at all about Bulu. But as the match went on, I was like, I need to calm down and focus on this team because Quest had so many offensive weapons. Oh my goodness, I remember Mega Absol had its first KO because Ariados missed a Mega Horn.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
The first turn of the game was one of my luckiest turns. I was so scared. I was like, I'm bringing in Mega Absol against a Sticky Web Setter. This could go only well, right? That was an incredibly lucky miss for me. And it could have turned the tide of the match. Because Ariados could have been free to set up a Sticky Web, possibly had I not been able to take care of it.
Yeah, that's the risk when you use moves like Mega Horn.
And that's why I hate moves like, Zen Headbutt, Wink Wink, and
Noob Scrub just agreed. He just co-signed that.
I don't like non-100% accurate moves because it's just like, I could miss this move and then get hardcore punished for it.
Yeah.
But I do remember Staraptor also kind of swept through some of the heavy offensive weapons on this team.
Yeah, it opened up the opportunity for Torterra to finish off the game.
It did. I was like, okay, so if he scarfs any of his remaining Pokemon aside from Empoleon, so I was worried about Heliolisk and Zygarde specifically because it's Staraptor. Staraptor's not very bulky, and Outrage would have annihilated it. But I remember I believe I double edged on the Heliolisk, and that's what took care of it. I was like, okay, that one wasn't scarfed. That's one down, one to go. And then when Zydog came out and it wasn't scarfed, I was shaking because I was like, oh my goodness, I could pull this one out. And I mean, you kind of see with the stats, Zydog tore through my team a bit with the 1,000 arrows and the Outrage. The Outrage specifically annihilated my poor team.
You had no fairies to block it, so
I didn't. I think I was going for Frostlass as my Zydog counter, and I kind of lost Frostlass early.
But what a match. Bulu also powered up Torterra's Woodhammer, so that it ended up doing like a crazy amount.
And it did like 70% or something like that.
Like almost 80 to Tapu Bulu, which is crazy. So that was cool also. But yeah, Torterra really pulled through.
It was also banded too.
Yeah.
That was the thing I did with Torterra, except for like once. But that was a special set with Torterra. Yeah, most times I used Torterra, it was banded because a 344 attack, like maximum attack stat, is okay, but banded and then Woodhammer, especially with Overgrow active.
Yeah, and grassy terrain.
Because I do also think that Torterra at one point tanked a Outrage from Zydog.
Yeah, it did.
Which, that was so scary. Because, like, oh, I wonder what happens if I keep Torterra in, and it outraged. And I was like, nope.
Yeah, you switched out immediately. But yeah, this was also a really great match. Just super hype, and yeah, I really like this match. And this was your third win. It was, I mean, along with the battle against Fingered Witch, this was just a pedal to the metal grind of a match. It was neck and neck the whole time, and I was definitely at risk of losing multiple times throughout the match. And Quest definitely had moments where he had a huge upper hand in the battle. It was anybody's game for a good portion of that battle, especially at the end. Yeah, that was so hype at the end.
That was a huge gamble. I was like, if he has no speed investment on Torterra outspeeds and wins me the game. That
really
was
smart
the biggest
investment.
gamble I've ever taken.
Yeah. Super hype. And so your next battle was versus Noob Scrub, actually. So Quest and Noob Scrub back to back, which I think the two you wanted to face.
The two biggest exciting matches I was looking forward to. Unlike the battle against Quest, this one was a lopsided.
Yeah, I think this was the biggest difference.
This was my biggest differential of all of my matches. Because that was just a very lucky whirlwind.
Yeah,
I had no idea that Magic Bounce switches out Whirlwind. And so when that happened and Stoutland came in, I was like, oh, wow. I might have just lost.
Yeah, that was a very wacky moment there.
Because I had put up Detect. Because I figured he's either going to set up Stealth Rocks or he's going to go for like Earthquake. Because I had sent out Mega Absol first because I was like, oh, this is my big anti-stall Pokemon. And it just kind of happened that Whirlwind bypasses Detect. And the rest is kind of history. At least Torterra took care of Stoutland eventually, but my goodness, is Stoutland a very, very strong Pokemon.
Yeah, in a sandstorm, that thing is extremely scary.
The Sand Rush is absolutely no joke.
Yeah. Another thing that happened was that Victini was poised to do some big damage, but he had Quagsire blocking Fusion Bolt and Chandelure blocking V-Create, and I believe it was choiced, so...
It was choice banded. Because I think that was the match where I'd asked you for help. I was like, what do I do with Victini? Because, like, I need something that hits hard. And you're like, what about banding Victini? I was like, that sounds like an excellent idea. Let me try that. And it was a great idea on paper. But
Flash Fire.
And ground typing.
Yeah.
Just... Victini was... That was just unfortunate for it, that match.
Trick might have helped. Since
Trick would have been a very interesting idea, especially against like Chandelure, since it's especially an offensive Pokemon. Just give it a choice band. You're like, oh, joke's on you.
Stally Pokemon don't like getting choice bands either, because then they can't protect and wish and
they can't
toxic.
Protect and do all their stall jank.
Yeah. So this battle was kind of brutal. Noob Scrub definitely in general just had a really tough team, so...
A very solid team, and I was expecting more of a stall team, which is why I actually banded Staraptor instead of scarfing it. This is the one battle that I ever banded Staraptor. I was like, I don't need speed. I need something that hits hard.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, Torterra still got a kill, so that's what's important.
Kept the differential. That was all I was going for. I was like, as long as Torterra keeps this differential, it's a win in my book. It did.
So next we go to Northern Necrozmas. This is the battle you face Morgana.
This was an interesting match because I remember you were like, "Can you please take care of Gengar?" I was like, "I'll try. I've got 3 Gengar counters." All of them did not work.
Yeah, when I saw the 6v6 in the beginning, I was like, "Oh my gosh, Gengar's gonna sweep," and then it did. Because
it wasn't meant to happen. It was not supposed to happen. Because I had Taunt, Destiny Bond, and Focus Sash on Frostlass, Gardevoir, and Galley.
Oh wow, 3.
3 of them. This was a strictly anti-Gengar team. Because I knew I could counter everything else, aside from Mantine, with my team. Even Zera, because I had Torterra. And even Prima, because I had Torterra. And Necrozma, because actually I think it was Gardevoir that took out Necrozma. But Mantine gave me trouble because I didn't really have a good I didn't have any kind of an electric type Pokemon that could deal with it. I didn't bring Luxray. And Luxray could have easily dealt with it because it's quad weak to electric. But yeah. And I wasn't worried about Garchomp at all because of Frostlass. And I knew as long as Frostlass was on the field table, Garchomp wasn't setting foot on the field.
Yeah, I think Morgana had some good predictions for Frostlass because every time you used Destiny Bond, he didn't attack, and then every time you used Taunt, that's when he attacked.
He attacked. It was like, and then he set up Rocks, and Rocks just killed my entire strategy.
Oh yeah, because no Sash.
Because it broke my 2 Sashes, and I don't outspeed Gengar at all.
And I believe Gengar had a Sash too, so...
It did. It pulled the Destiny Bond strat on me.
Gengar was like, I take your strategy and I use it against you.
That's how Torterra went down, because Torterra was banded. And yeah.
But Torterra got +1 in the differential, so...
That's what matters.
But overall, an interesting match for sure. And
I think my planning was by far the riskiest planning I've ever done. Because it banked on the fact that I didn't lose my Sash, and that I was able to get a Destiny Bond off at least once. Never happened, unfortunately.
I do like that you put in creativity into your sets a lot of the time. It's interesting to see them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it is still interesting to see, and it lends to a lot of interesting battles for sure.
And I also like to say that I put my creativity into my nickname game as well.
Yes, you did. I think my favorite nickname was Lapras being named Oppressed. I forgot which battle it was, but...
that was Frostlass.
Oh, Frostlass.
It was 3 battles in a row. I was like, I want to bring Frostlass, but I just can't, and I want to show this nickname. Then I finally brought Frostlass, and I named it Oppressed.
Ice types are oppressed.
And then of course the edgy, and then edgy but bird, because Frostlass with Destiny Bond, and then Staraptor hurting itself. Because, recoil damage.
Recoil damage. That was a good one, too.
I did name it recoil damage at one point, too.
Yeah.
That's just what it was. And then literally a tree.
Yeah.
And then as many Gardevoir. I had so much fun with Gardevoir's nicknames, because I was just coming up with as many video game characters as I could come up with.
I think I need to have a page with nicknames on the team analysis for Season 3.
I will have plenty of those.
It'll just be a bunch of names. But
I kind of did Absol dirty with a lot of the nicknames too, because I was like, I feel so bad for this Pokemon. I don't use it correctly.
Absol's I'm going into battle. I know I'm gonna die.
I'm going into this battle and I know what's happening. But it's okay.
It's okay. I sacrificed my differential to Torterra.
It all worked out in the end. No love lost, Absol. If anybody wants Mega Absol next season, you're getting a good Pokemon. I promise.
Alright, so we move on to the last battle, which is...
This was by far the craziest I have ever been when team building.
Yeah, you really pulled a lot of liberties in this one.
I was like, I'm out of the playoffs. I might as well just go all out. I scarfed Torterra. I made Luxray shiny. Called it something other than Sparky. I think, what did I do? I know I put Final Gambit on Victini, because that was specifically a Mamoswine counter. Because Victini, with full HP EVs, one hit KO's Mamoswine with Final Gambit.
You also put Block on Lapras.
I did. Oh my, that's right. I was trying to do Block Perish Song with Lapras, and then Mean Look Perish Song with Absol. I remember that. And then that was the craziest thing that ever happened, because I did Block or something like that with Lapras, and then Startco just pulled out an Encore with Mega Card.
Yeah, that was such a weird... I was like, whoa, what?
That was the weirdest exchange I've ever seen. I was like, wow, that just worked.
I definitely didn't expect that.
Me neither.
But this was definitely a fun one.
I had so much fun building for this, because I was like, I don't have a care in the world. I just pretty much either ruin Star Toad's season, or I just have a lot of fun. All bets are off.
Sometimes the most fun matches are honestly when people already know that, like, they aren't in playoffs, or maybe they are in playoffs, like, they just aren't fighting for it, you know what I mean? Like, they're already...
not fighting for anything.
Their fate's been sealed.
That was my last battle of the season in Season 1 against Quest, where I was like, I'm just gonna have a bit of fun, see what happens, and then I almost won.
Yeah, and this one was close too.
Already in playoffs then, and I was like, well, I don't really have much to fight for. Let's just have some fun. And then I had some fun. Wow. Well, okay then.
Overall, really interesting. All the strategies you pulled in this battle.
I would also like to note that Fingered Witch used Incineroar against me, and Star Toad brought Salamence.
Your Pokemon came for revenge.
My Pokemon came for revenge. Incineroar got a little bit of revenge. I don't quite remember what happened to Salamence. Probably Lapras Freeze Dry.
Something happened to Salamence, but I forgot what it was.
It
was the Final Gambit from Victini.
Oh, that's right! Because he switched in Salamence, because I think he was expecting a V-Crit, and then I used Final Gambit. with an almost fully healthy Victini.
Yeah, that brought down Salamence. But this was a really fun battle. I liked watching it a lot.
It was very fun to plan for. I will never forget when I'm like, I'm going to scarf Torterra. That was just most of the weirdness that was going to happen in this battle was I'm scarfing Torterra.
And hey, Torterra got 2 kills again, so...
It worked.
Torterra was your ride or die.
It was. I'm very happy that Torterra ended up doing what it did this season. Might not have been Luxray, but it was another Gen 4 Pokemon.
So speaking of Torterra, we move on to the Pokemon rankings and usage. And all the way at the top, there it is.
The tree. Yeah, so Torterra... What was I going to say? Oh, right. So Luxray again last season. Luxray was my rock. It was like 12-9, I think, differential-wise. In this season, it was 9-4 Torterra. I remember when Torterra cracked the top 10 in the MVP race, and I was like, I have peaked.
Yeah, honestly, if it had one more kill, it would have been...
it would have been in the MVP race.
Yeah. So
Which,
really impressive there.
Gardevoir, it's that one 4-0 match for Gardevoir. Just put it up. Because aside from that one match, it would have been 2 and 3. Which puts it tied with Gallade. That is such a coincidence, actually. Oh my goodness.
So overall, what Pokemon did you like using most? And which Pokemon were you like, I didn't really like using this or vibe with this?
I did not actually vibe too much with Victini. Believe it or not. I was like, Victini, very strong, tier 1 Pokemon, crazy good move. Did not really like using it. Same could be said with, with Lapras. As much as I like Lapras, I was like, I could probably see myself using just Volcanion or a different water type next season, because Lapras has both of its type covered with Volcanion and with Frostlats. I mean, Frostlats was so much fun to use just because it's so much jank you can do with it. You can do a Trick Hex. You can actually run like a water type move on it to counter fire and rock. You can do Taunt Destiny Bond, obviously. That was my favorite thing to run. You can make it physically offensive and put Crunch and Ice Fang on it if you're feeling very bold. There's a lot you can do with it. It's so much fun to use. Some of what would be considered like some of the worst Pokemon on my team, like Torterra, like Frostlats, Luxray, they were so much fun to use. Just because it's Pokemon that I like from my favorite video game of all time, or second favorite, but my favorite Pokemon game of all time. And I mean, even though Mega Absol, rather abysmal differential, it was a lot of fun to use. Because it was just the thought of having a Pokemon that can bounce back status moves, cause a lot of havoc, and then it hit really hard as well. That was so much fun to play around with and see what all it could do, both on the physically and at a couple points on the especially offensive side.
Yeah, it's fun busting out those flamethrowers and ice beams with Absol when the opponent's expecting like a knockoff or something.
You never know.
Definitely Torterra did you well, Gardevoir as well, and Mega Absol, I'm glad you had fun using it despite it not really being able to be used that much, like in terms of getting kills and stuff. But yeah, overall I think that you just showcased a big improvement from last season, and especially in your differentials, in your battle record, in your strategizing, and not only that, but like everybody else had also improved from last season too. So it was definitely a harder season too.
Everyone, I mean, you've mentioned multiple times, everyone's team was incredibly scary. There's just not one team I think you can point at and say, oh wow, that team is going to be really easy to face.
Yeah.
It was, you put in planning, well, you would think that you just put in tons of planning, tons of team building, tons of strategizing. What if they bring this Pokemon? What if they don't bring this Pokemon? What if they, in a couple of cases with my team, what if they know I'm bringing this Pokemon, so they try to bring a Pokemon to counter it? And so I bring that Pokemon just to throw them off. Everyone's
team seemed scarier for the most part. Everyone's knowledge had increased. Everybody's strategizing was better. Like, this is a tough season, so you really pulled your weight.
It was a very good season. I had expected to go like 1-9 again. My goal was to go 2-8, beat that goal. Very happy about that. But Jenna, this was a tough season. There were a lot of good teams that really just showed why they were really good teams.
Yeah, definitely. So we're gonna wrap up with just talking about the season in general. I had mentioned that a lot of people had improved, and of course you being one of them. What were some of the things that you learned in this season, just in general? Like, it could be about Pokemon strategies, specific Pokemon, or just anything in general.
Well, I think for sure 90% accuracy usually means about 50% accurate.
Yep.
But also the commentating, being able to get in on a match to commentate, that was a lot of fun.
It was. I enjoyed that a lot.
Learning just the ins and outs of like, oh, so this is what it feels like to be able to talk about this with somebody else, being able to discuss strategy, like what could somebody be thinking in their head without just like sitting alone at my computer in the dark with the faint drone of TV downstairs watching
the imagery,
people just go head to head. I say that because I'm totally not doing that right now. Totally not doing that right now. But it was really interesting to actually get to see what commentary is all about. Definitely love to get to do that again at some point.
Yeah.
Whenever I have the time. And also learning just some of the ladder matches with teams that I've been messing around with, and with even some of my league teams practicing in ladder matches. Like, okay, so how does this fare against, say, a more stall-based team, or how does this fare against a really fast team? It was very interesting to see, okay, so generally speaking, these are the Pokemon that would do better in this scenario, these are the Pokemon that would do worse in this scenario. And then also just learning better how to team build, how to make sets on my teams, really the team building process in general, the mind games that go into building with, like I mentioned, what if they bring this Pokemon? What if they know that? What if they know that I know that they know that I'm bringing this Pokemon, and I just bring it just cause?
Yeah, you always want to be 2 steps ahead.
Basically, you have to have the bigger brain when team planning, and then the steadiest hands when actually playing Pokemon. Because I can't tell you how many times I actually misclicked and it cost me a Pokemon.
It could be deadly, misclicking. Luckily, I don't think I ever did. I think I only did once, but I think I did twice, but one time I was able to cancel and then pick the actual move, and then another time I did, but yeah.
I will say that there was an Iron Head that I know that I used that was a misclick that still worked out in my favor. I think that's the only time that ever happened.
It flinched anyways.
Yeah.
Well, I also wanted to ask you, what your favorite moment in the league was.
Favorite moment in the league? God, you really had to ask me that question, didn't you? There were quite a few stellar moments for me this season. I mean, obviously, my match against Quest. As far as, like, my favorite moments with me, that just stands out as just Torterra. The Gen 4 starter battle, basically like me versus Blatch, would be like Quest versus Barry, basically, with Empoleon versus Torterra. That was huge for me. That was a legitimate pop-up that night.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. I think that's a fair favorite moment. That was one of the really memorable moments for me too. So
and then I think I'm gonna do this to him. Morgana's stall team.
He will never live that down.
Never ever live that down. And if you're listening to this, Morgana, I'm sorry, but I had to do it. But also, like just as a general theme, like just how much all the teams grew. The new member, I know Drizzle Boy being a new member to the league, I know that he just jumped in and he made an impact pretty quickly.
Yeah.
With that good old belly drum Slurpuff. That's a hell of a set, actually, for that Pokemon.
Yeah, especially like his planning was pretty impressive. He had a lot of like fun and quirky sets too. So really interesting team.
All the the newcomers in the league, seeing them have tons of fun, building teams and growing throughout the league. And all the people that have been in the league before coming back, having tons of fun, putting together the best teams I could possibly put together. And then, yeah. Oh, and also Jigglypuff.
Yeah.
That was an epic moment.
That was awesome. That was pretty awesome. I'm not even, like... That Jigglypuff really did it to me, but I'm not even mad about it. Like, that was really awesome. Definitely in the top 10, for sure. We'll see that video coming soon, but anyways.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, well, any final thoughts before we end this Waterfront Woods team analysis?
Definitely looking forward to Season 3. I'm hoping that with my school schedule I can fit in the next league with whatever I'm doing. God save the tree and long live Sparky.
Sparky, remember, unspoken rule, Sparky belongs to Sir Roland, so just saying. But yeah, it was a pleasure to have you in this season, and as usual, like it was last season, and really excited to see what new strategies you bring, how you continue growing in your knowledge of Pokemon and what strategies you use, and hopefully getting some more commentary, because that commentary, when we did it, was really fun. So
I had a ton of fun with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Might even, fingers crossed, if I have time, might even try to do that for winner's side of the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
Or for because there's a few more matches left in playoffs, and
I need my winners finals commentated. So if you're down, just let me know. But really, really fun moment there, and yeah, thank you so much for joining. Really, really strong showing for Waterfront Woods, and it was awesome to have you. So really hope to see you in future seasons. And of course, I mean, in the server, duh, we're both active, so duh. But yep. But yeah, really awesome, and thank you so much again for joining. And yeah, that concludes our Waterfront Woods team analysis. Tune in for some more team analysis videos coming up. We still have quite a few more, and they're always fun to make. So thank you again for joining, and until then, this is Noel from Sun and Friendly, joined by Sir Roland of Waterfront Woods, and we'll see you next time.